Welcome to my presentation of Safety Program Management, Red Team Airport, Brown, LLC. This class is Safety Program Management by Dr. Amanda Brown. My name is Marvin Watts. Here's the table of contents. In this presentation, I have 7 graphs that I will go over and be talking about the trends and the peaks and what they mean, along with the OIR and my top 5 near misses, along with a fishbone of a top 5 near miss. Also, along with that, is recordables that we had throughout the workplace. With that are the OSHA 300 logs that go along with the recordables. And then I will be doing a cost analysis over the top 5 and the recordables, along with a wellness plan for the company and if I should buy this company. My first graph is days of the week. You can see on the left side I have my near misses, and on the bottom are the days. It starts out Monday as our top near miss day. Monday being the first of the week, it's a day that everybody dreads to go to work, and it's not very exciting. So work can be lazy, not very much energy, and work can become, like I said, lazy. And you can see the trend in the next 2 days goes down as your feet gets underneath you and you begin to get your jobs for the week and you know what you're doing. Near misses are less likely. And then towards Thursday and Friday, you see the trends go back up, and people are getting towards the middle of the week, getting lazy, getting just complacent in what they do. And you can see on Saturday how on one of the busiest days of the week that our near misses are the lowest, which is a great trend to have. This showing that our emphasis on busy days and when the airport's busy, that we take care of everybody involved. But the next day it trends right back up to Sunday. It's 52, our second near miss day. Along with Monday, that near miss day are days that people typically don't want to be at work. On a Sunday is a day that people will probably get lazy, think about other things, and you just have to find ways to encourage people to stay involved in their task and getting the job done. My next slide is group member versus non-group member. And this slide is showing the near misses that happened in the workplace with members and non-group members involved in the airport. This trend is showing a drastic difference in most of the near misses being non-group members, and very little being group members. And then in the next graph, we'll show the monthly tracking throughout the months. This will show that at the start of the year, you can see our near misses tend to be at the highest points, like through a consistent basis, and that's because the start is a chaotic type of a few months to get started to the year, and it just shows how you have to have more emphasis on the beginning of the year and showing how the task should be done in a safe manner, and how it is a busy time with many pieces, many moving parts, but you can see the trend going down into the middle of the year. The middle of the year is our best months for near misses. We take those values down all the way to 0 in July. July being our best month, we had no near misses, and everybody seemed to be on top of their stuff. With July comes good weather, so that is also understandable. And summertime should be some of your best months to not have near misses. Next being is the time of day. What time of day is our near misses happening? And this trend starts out at 12 a.m. and it's showing how we had 5 at 12 a.m. But through 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. there are very little to none near misses, and I believe that is that goes back to the airport not being very busy at that time, and also just there's less chaos and, like I said, not as busy. But you see when the sun comes up and everybody starts to be active, you see all the near misses start to happen. Most of them happening at 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. are our 4 top times. But in those ranges of hours, you can see the trends all peaking and showing heights and near misses. And you can see around lunchtime when people are getting food in their system and getting energy back, the near misses are going down, and there's only 0 at 12 p.m. and 1 or 4 at 1. And so into the later day, you can see that as work goes on, our top near miss time is 5 p.m. And that just being because work is getting lazy towards the end of the day when people are going home. People don't observe as well, and so that just needs to be more attention to detail and things like that. Next is our recordables versus first aid versus near miss. This shows a trend of like all of our recordables throughout the year, all the first aid throughout the year, and all the near misses throughout the year for each month. And you can see as in the 2 graphs before that, or the 2 graphs before the monthly tracking, that it starts out in the first of the few months. It's pretty chaotic first of the year, and you can see that in how the graph trends and going down towards the summertime to better weather, better attitudes all around in the workplace, and more things just going with like steady in the workplace and with flowing. And then you can see as it gets to the end of the year how it trends back up, and the weather becomes bad. Our worst month is December, and that can be a lot of different things, a lot of different weather, and just people getting lazy because it's the end of the year and ready to get a break or something or other. Recordables and first aid. There was no recordables or first aid in the first of the year or at the end of the year, but in the middle, when we tend to have lower near misses, we had more recordables and first aid. And that isn't, I'd say that isn't the time. Like, you'd expect not to have any in this time, but tendencies aren't always right, and just have to address these things with care and make sure that employees can identify and make sure risks are taken care of properly. My next graph shows the totals of incidents, and then types of incidents are at the bottom. Our top type of incident being a fall, which meaning there was a lot of weather. There was a lot of weather problems within our airport as like when it rained or snowed or something like that. When there's wet flooring, people tend to slip or aren't as careful as they should be, and that we had a lot of problems with people falling throughout our airport, and proper salting of the doorways. And next was our exposure to temperature and mobile equipment. they were pretty close in their totals. Mobile equipment is something at an airport that you can't take lightly. Mobile equipment is something that's used by everybody to maneuver about the airport and to get jobs done. Um, and then that also goes getting the job done, exposure to temperature. Your employees, throughout our near miss sheet, we had a bunch of employees have exposure to temperature and get dehydrated while at work, or maybe a day or two out of them. There was a few where it was really cold, but for the main thing is keeping our employees on top of things and ready for anything that's about to happen, whether it's weather change, um, planes not working, lifters not working, things like that. Um, they just need to be ready. And our next one was tools and equipment. Tools and equipment is another that shouldn't be a problem at an airport as much as it is on this graph. Um, I would say that you would need to, our top four, top five here, six even, they all are reasons or things that in a airport cannot be tolerated and cannot have a lot of, because this makes for not an unsteady workflow. Next is our OIR. It is our rate of injuries and illnesses by hours worked. And you can see at the first of the year when it's usually chaotic and there's a lot of injuries or accidents happening. You'd think you'd have some injuries or illnesses, but there weren't any until the middle of the year. They started trending upward, and that's when we started having recordables and first aids. And those trends you see go up and hit their peak at September. September is 3.34. And you can see a steady little, like, 0.3 drop off on the back end of the year. I'd like to see this trend of zero carry the whole way, but humans will make mistakes, and that's just like, you have to limit those and make sure they have the proper equipment to identify and get hazards taken care of. Next is OIR, is like the last graph. OIR is the incident rate of injuries and illnesses, and it's calculated by the number of hours worked by month and the number of incidents that month. This business had an average of like 200 employees, and by tracking the total hours worked, 399,360 hours, and taking 6 recordables that the company had and putting them into a formula, you can find the total OIR. And as I did here, I took it and put it in 6 recordables times 200,000 hours divided by 399,360 total hours to get the OIR of 3. And I believe that's too high in a workplace for a year, but it could be worse. It's not as bad, but it could be worse. And I think that as a whole, these near misses that were had are like very, very much avoidable. And next, I'll be talking about my top 5 near miss and Fishbone. My first near miss was electrical. A demolition craftsman that was clearing out an old shop area in the airport was removing conduct with a reciprocating saw and cut into an energized 110 voltage line. The work control document explicitly required verification that the line was either de-energized and air-gapped or covered by a lockout tagout. Investigators learned that, based on work performed a month before, the craftsman assumed that electricians had de-energized the circuit. He also failed to request a zero energy check or complete thorough walk down to verify that all electrical services was air-gapped, assuming the prior month's permit was still in effect. And I scored this with a severity of 4 and a probability of 4, giving a high risk score of 16. Um, I, I believe that the severity and the probability are two are very high in this. Severity being catastrophic, probability very probable. It happens more than you think. Of people thinking lines are not active, and they are. And this came out to be a direct cost of $158,218 and an indirect cost of $174,038 and a total cost of $332,257. And a likely injury would be an electrical shock to the individual, cutting the electrical line. And this can be controlled. It can be easily avoided by proper inspection of the ground you are working on, and knowing the electrical lines in the area, implementing lockout tagout for the whole area, and avoiding the situation of electrical shock any further accident to happen. And this comes back to just using your own capabilities and doing it yourself to make sure it is. My near miss number 2 was also electrical. The driver of a salt hauling truck had just completed a dump beside the main terminal of salt on site and was lowering the electrical bed when the bed came in contact with an energized 13.8 kilowatt transmission line. The truck served as an electrical ground, blowing one tire and scorching 2 others and causing a small grass fire. The driver was aware of the transmission line but had guessed incorrectly that he had enough clearance to lower the truck bed. His escort had not been trained as a spotter. It was an emergency weather situation. Although the escort expressed concern over the clearances, it did not stop the operation. The driver and escort were fortunate not to have been injured or killed. I gave this score of severity and probability of 4, giving it a 16 because I believe the situation was severe enough to have that score, especially any time death is possible, while adding the electrocution of an employee nearby under wet circumstances could become a victim of someone else's mistakes. And I believe, yes, it could have been controlled. I believe that another set of eyes helping that knew the clearances or had been trained as a spotter would be very, very efficient in this, and this near miss would have never happened. My third near miss was tools and equipment use. While digging up old plumbing in the airport, an employee was in the hole shoveling mud, and the operator did not see him in the hole. He was digging and swinging the bucket so close to his head the employee felt the air from it. Next time they hope to have more communication and attention between operator and apprentice. And I scored this so high because I believe that I believe the lack of communication on the job is the most reason for injury, and is the cause that injuries don't happen sometimes. I believe that with proper communication, you could have prevented all of the likely outcomes and prevent injuries from happening. And if struck by the bucket, he could have been knocked out, break something in his body, and possibly a concussion, or even worse than that. And this could be easily controlled with communication between employees of the situation and what's going on. My next is near miss number 4. It's an ergonomics problem. Employees were loading bags without the aid of a lifter for the complete shift because it was not maintained correctly. I gave this a severity of 4 and a probability of 3, the score of 12, and I gave it such a high score because I feel like it isn't the employee's job to be loading bags. This employee could suffer physical injuries if the individual can't lift bags all day, or one bag slips and injures somebody. Their employees aren't trained to be lifting That is why a lifter is there, and if proper maintenance is done on the equipment on schedule, workflow will flow properly and have no setbacks. It all just goes back to the basic maintenance and communication that it's done. And I did my fishbone over near miss number 4. They were all cons, measurements, the distance you have to load the bags, and the weight of the bags can both be, our distance will be pretty far to the storage of the plane, and the weight of the bags will not be light either if they're going underneath the planes. The material were worn out lifter that broke, it needed to be maintenance and maintained. Gloves for work is another that needs to be, I didn't know or hear gloves if the employee had gloves, but if not, employee needs gloves for lifting all day. And then personal would be tiredness, and the job would be able to become lazy and not as efficient as it should be, and person will be unprepared to lift. Was not coming to work thinking that they were going to lift all day, getting bags onto the planes. The environment is the airport tarmac. The methods, not maintained correctly, chaos getting bags on the planes, no plan of action, which means there was no plan. If the lifter broke, it was just up to the employees to get the bags on, and that could cause chaos in the work schedule and what's going on that day, and where you have to stretch your employees out to do other things. The machine is a broken lifter, and these all translate to near miss number 4. Near miss number 5 is a mobile equipment problem. Tire almost comes off because the bolts were not secured tightly after the tire had been changed on a piece of delivery equipment. The piece of equipment was in use while delivery items in the airport when tire was found to be loose. I give this a severity of catastrophic and probability of remote because of 3 and remote, but I believe that the probability, tires do come loose, but not every day, so I believe it is a remote situation, but the severity can be very high if the tire was to come off and the luggage cart or delivery cart was directed to employees or planes or whatever is surrounding the airport. And I believe the likely injury if the tire was to come off in the time of delivery, employees could have been hit by the cart, wrecking and crushing them, sustaining more damage than just yourself. And yes, I believe this can be easily controlled with just maintaining the tire and making sure that you get a visual check of your equipment that you're using each day. Next is my recordables. Recordable number 1 was on May 1st. An employee sprained something on her body. I gave this a severity of 3 and a probability of 3 with a high risk score of 9. This injury does not seem unlikely in a workplace like an airport, and there's many different moving pieces throughout an airport, and this took place in a stairwell throughout the airport and could be prevented with easier and careful steps, I believe. Most likely, the injury for a sprain would be just limit mobility for a time period. The individual ended up missing 14 days of work because of the incident. Here is the OSHA 300 log of the recordable 1. This form is done mostly correct, but the middle of the page where the physician or healthcare professional, name of physician, and the treatment that was given at the work site needs to be all filled out. The confidentiality of the patient was intact here, as I blocked out the name. Recordable number 2 was on June 6th. While cleaning, the employee accidentally lost control of poison chemical in the main terminal of the airport. Yes, the severity and probability of this, I believe, were hazardous and a remote, because it isn't the most catastrophic, and it isn't something that happens every day, but those are chemicals that people work with, and if they are inhaled, respiratory damage and shortness of breath and many different problems can occur to an individual, and it can be prevented with proper handling of the chemicals and just proper gloves and respiratory stuff. Everything was in this log is correct except the supervisor filling the report left questions 10 through 13 out when filling out report, and again the confidentiality of our employee is still intact. Giving a probability of 16, and the likely injury, electrical shock throughout the body causing motor problems. And yes, this recordable could have been prevented if the wiring would have been identified earlier and someone could have fixed the open wires, exposed wires in the office. The OSHA 300 log of recordable number 3 this is a good example of how to do a correct OSHA log. The confidentiality again was intact of the employee. My recordable number 4 was done on July 21st. The employee's clothes caught on fire while working on engine. The severity of a 4 and probability of 4 and a high risk score of 16. The employee would most likely sustain many burns, and I believe this near miss could be avoided if this recordable can be avoided if you're working anywhere with a heat exposure to heat. You need flammability shirt or clothes on, or fire extinguisher close to you, and someone watching or someone close by. And again, this is a log that was done correctly and carefully details the event and how everything happens. The individual confidentiality is intact. Recordable number 5 was an employee that suffered a hernia while loading baggage on August 12th. The severity of 4 and probability of 3. The high risk score of a 12. A direct cost and indirect cost there, and likely injuries, surgery to area and hernia, and restricted mobility for 4 weeks. This recordable sometimes the recordables couldn't be avoided. Sometimes individuals' bodies are more susceptible to things like hernias, and that's something that you can't really avoid, but you can avoid work that you can't do efficiently. If you think you could get hurt or something doing that, then you can speak up or say something about that. And again, this log was almost complete, but lacked time of employee working and the time of the event along with the facility and with a workplace, street and address and things like that. Recordable number 6 was on September 23rd. Employee was welding a beam when a stack of metal slid out and crushed his foot. I gave this a severity of 4 and a probability of 3 with a score of 12. And I believe this was is a catastrophic event, but it's remote, that it doesn't happen all the time. Metal is usually secured or in a position that is away from you. The injury would most likely be bruising, possibly breaking foot, or when crushed. And I think it could be avoided by properly putting the metals in a proper position, a safe position, where an employee wouldn't end up getting hit by them or crushed. And this OSHA report was done correctly. You can properly see the right steps being done and filled out in the log. And my cost analysis of my top 5 and recordables, the total cost of the accidents of our top 5 comes out to be $1,110,022, which I think is a reasonable total cost opposed to other companies and their accidents within the workplace. Total cost of recordables come out to be $766,189, which I also think is a reasonable total cost. There's many. You don't want to have any recordables when thinking about it. You don't want to have any recordables, near misses. The goal is to have none, but people are humans, and looking at those numbers would be a good starting point to help implement a culture to help avoid these near misses and recordables. I feel like they are very avoidable and can be helped. My wellness plan, my company will be focusing on overweight and obese individuals and ways the individual can achieve goals of a healthier lifestyle. I'm focusing on this because of the growing problem of obesity in this country and the unhealthy lifestyles people live. More than 40% of adults in the country are obese, also ranking 39th in women's obesity and 10th in men's obesity. The goals of the program are to show healthy and easy foods to implement into diet, give employees self-confidence about themselves, make goals that they can have measurable, and help them with that, and be intentional about your healthy lifestyle. A goal to be intentional about everything you do. You can kind of get lackadaisical and lazy about things you do, but keeping an intent can be a goal of yours. A wellness plan. What is my program? What does it involve? The company will be providing a discount for a local gym, also proper education and health and diets you can implement in your life. What do employees do? Employees will not be forced to participate, but will be encouraged, and their participation in diets and physical activity will further help others fall into a healthier lifestyle. How do you get the message out and rewards? The main way to get the message out would be meeting with health and safety professionals involved, plus a company-wide email would help get the word out. A reward that would help get employees involved would be free dinners or gift cards to reward progress and getting the employees competing and pushing one another. Measuring results. Measuring results in this program is hard because individuals can be embarrassed and put down by bad results, so by talking and just checking in on the progress will do with some individuals, but the best way to see results is on the scale and mentally overcoming things, and by that you can see results trending good or bad. Would I buy this company? Yes, I would buy this company. I think the near miss and recordables are something that can be easily fixed and make the workplace a safer environment. I think an investment in this company would pay off because of the culture that already seems to be in place, and that being something to build on and make better. I do believe that this company has little things that can be easily corrected that can make this company very, very efficient. And my safety agenda, my personal safety agenda, my goal with safety is to ensure every individual returns to their loved ones at night and can work in a safe environment with no worries of what the workplace will consist of and operate like.